but
Fastest talker in America. Go on.
challenge accepted.
He is.
What, was that your boss?
Bob, no, I worked with him.
With-
Many years ago.
Yes.
Before he
Still,
became-
still the same exact
Before he
guy.
became the general manager of Wattstopper.
He's still a Patriots fan, believe it or not, so.
That's sad for him.
You know, yeah,
They had a good run.
You know.
it's okay. But yeah, so just a little bit about me for background. Like I said, I've been here for a year. Grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so right around the corner. I know a lot of people tend to ask, which coast do you come from? And I say the mid coast.
It's a good coast. The good one.
The best coast, yes. Midwest, Midwest. And so I just wanted to get a little bit of understanding beforehand so I know how deep or how general to keep this presentation. So how familiar are you guys with Wattstopper's products, and maybe what are some things that you're hoping to be able to get answered from me today? Familiar?
I'd say all of us are probably
Pretty familiar.
Yeah.
Pretty
Seen
familiar?
a lot of them.
Alrighty, and then how familiar are you guys, so I guess you work primarily, I guess, with contractors day to day?
Correct. A lot of project business.
A lot of project business? Have you been hearing rumblings about the new code that's coming into effect? So from what I hear correctly, next week it goes into effect for Chicago and then December for Illinois in general.
So a couple years before it actually gets enforced.
Right.
I don't know, I haven't
Sure,
been in the
you're not on that
industry long
side.
enough to know. And so I guess from that point on, how much have you heard about just either code in general, or have you heard anything from any other brands? I mean, we're gonna talk a little bit about what Wattstopper can do to help with the new code today, so I'm curious, what have you heard so far about new code?
The door receptacles is a big thing.
Receptacles, yeah.
Way you guys are trying to get around it, it's gonna work. A lot of guys say they're gonna put like half the receptacles on one wall and then just spread the rest out like normal. Just so all the control receptacles are in one spot, yeah.
Interesting.
So I think the letter of the code would be useless.
Yeah, there's,
Right,
that's the
check the box.
current loophole they're finding.
No, it's a stupid code.
What is the code?
So the code, the dual receptacles are the big thing that are on there, as well as I think we're still waiting for the Illinois amendments to come out. But as far as I know, a secondary D lighting zone is also going to be required.
Yeah. The code, Dave, is every half the receptacles have to be controlled. So
Every
if you
office.
had one receptacle underneath your desk,
This is all commercial.
And
Yeah.
new construction,
so that means you have to have a sensor, your receptacle's on a sensor, so
Yeah.
now your desk light works or not.
I see.
There's everything online.
An energy saver is what we're getting at.
Supposedly.
So your calculator gets shut off at night.
Or your printer, there's people with their printers on, you know.
So extension cords.
Buy batteries. Instead,
Interesting.
batteries going
How many things that you want to keep powered up that, you know, once come.
So what people are gonna do is add extra receptacles.
Well, that's interesting.
But anyway, you're doubling the
Right.
amount of labor for.
So past summer's really happy, they're gonna sell those.
Sell more,
Right.
You know, they have the split receptacle, which basically is a resi receptacle where they snap the,
Tabs off.
tabs off, same thing, same concept. But now they charge more for it.
Receptacles
I think
not
even
$4.
like the
No, the AC receptacle now is $2
outlets
anyway.
too, and GFIs, I mean, is it everything?
As far as I know, it's all the outlets. I will double check. I don't know if they're gonna put it for the USB since that's pretty new yet, but I would assume for the GFI, yes. I will double check on that. But yeah, as far as I know, it is all outlets. And so kind of going along with that, we're kind of seeing a little bit more of the code kind of gearing towards wireless, which is why I brought big old suitcase of wireless today. It's great to bring into airports.
Sure.
And so just to get a little bit of background for history, obviously we all know that for analog controls, this is the power pack that we kind of started with. This is an emergency power pack I'm showing. I couldn't find my regular one. But analog, bunch of wiring. We realized that not everybody loves kind of doing pipe and wire for everything. I know Chicago really loves trying to push as many different trades as possible in one project. So to help kind of combat the the labor savings and energy savings, in 2009 we came about with DLM, which is our digital lighting management. That way it's not working directly onto just pipe and wire for everything, but rather we started off with connecting through MSP cables. So we have the room controllers are kind of hidden down here. I can't really bring them out to show you guys. You can come up afterwards. But we decided, you know, this is an easier solution, does about 40% labor savings. And then we realized indeed that a lot of people are kind of going for the standalone applications when it came to wired or wireless. So we decided to focus more on networking. So in 2009, we started with these products. In 2012, we added the ability to network into our system. And that's really where we've kind of kept the playing field of it, is to focusing on getting the product basically to be as expandable as it necessary. So we do focus on the standalone. We also focus a little bit more onto the network for those creative projects that may come about. Then in 2018, we saw that people weren't necessarily liking all the cables to connect still, and they were just like, you know, if we're gonna be wiring one thing, we might as well be wiring it all. So in 2018, we started to come out with digital lighting management wireless. And so that works through Bluetooth connection. We have our sensors here that run on battery power so that we can kind of put them anywhere. I'm sure you guys already know that, but just to kind of keep it in the loop for full history. And since then, we've been adding on to our DLM wireless. Now we realize that as projects come about, there's a lot of retrofit projects that come about, a lot of systems where they're trying to make sure they're trying to use the existing manufacturer, they're not trying to redo everything. So with our wireless, we made sure that it was able to connect through what we call a network bridge here. So that way we can grab the wireless product in a place that might already have DLM wired, but you don't have to take it out and buy a completely new system. You can just expand on the system. And so that's kind of a quick overview as to why we've gone the way that we've gone and with Chicago code, with the dual receptacles, with the secondary daylighting zone. We're noticing a bit of a shift more from analog towards the wireless solutions. And so I know one of the things that we have as a resource online, we have kind of quick guides to the energy code. I also know that Chicago Lightworks is going to be offering some presentations to be able to do for the wireless code at some point, or at least they have the option that you can schedule training, so that way you can learn a little bit more about all of the solutions and how it will be, how we basically solve all your issues with new code. And we also are working on a couple of one-liners to be able to come about for room solutions that go with the new code, whether you're going with analog, DLM hybrid, DLM wired, or DLM wireless. So in addition to kind of creating these products that we have here, what we've been focusing on more is we've noticed lately a solution that's people have been complaining about is that you have a new system, but you're maybe not able to access the system, or it's not so easy to learn, not so easy to set up. So lately we've been focusing a little bit more on the standalone. So what we do have is a digital lighting management app that really works well for standalone applications. I want to emphasize that. It's where you're able to go onto the app. I am logging in now. You're able to kind of go through the app and you're able to do either the manual push to pair that's involved with these. Are you guys familiar with push to pair? Should I explain that? Kind of. So basically we have, if I am working with abilities, we have a system basically where you can go and you grab the room controller, you turn it on. It's not going to work now because I don't have the room controllers plugged in. But you turn the room controller on, press the config button 3 times here, press it 3 times here for both to enter into pairing mode. Then you grab your node device, just press once more, and it pairs with the room controller. We have the ability on our app to be able to just do that without needing to do the push to pair. So let's say you already have a room set up and you want to change a couple of settings or you want to add a new thing in. You can go find devices, change all of the settings through the app itself, kind of create a site for each room. And it does work eventually up to a whole network system, but if you're doing a project that large, it's easier to go with our software setup. And so with the software included, Chicago Lightworks also offers either half-day or full-day startups. I know the half-day startup is a big deal because not all companies offer that. And we also have alongside with that, with Wattstopper, the ability to subscribe to our network services, which is basically 24/7 access to be able to call. So that way, any issue that comes up, you're not needing to call a new tech out every single time. You can go online, call somebody. We can connect through our network and be able to go onto the site and fix all the issues. that's a little bit of a broad overview of what we have for the products. If you want, I can go a little bit more into specifically what DLM products we have, or if we have any other general questions kind of before I dive in a little bit more. Alright, so we have our room controller. That is kind of basically the same thing as the power pack. We do have Chicago Plenum rated. I'm sure you are all familiar with the dash A at the end of the product. So that is still the same for our room controller. It can control up to 64 leaf devices. And so what a leaf devices is basically either a wireless switch or a sensor. You probably don't need that many devices into one room, but in case you do, we do have that opportunity available. Then we have what we call, for our sensors, we have our ceiling sensor. This is our like DT600, so anything that starts with an L for our products, except for panels, anything that starts with like LM is typically our DLM line. 100 series or 200 series is all wired, 600 series is wireless. Now, why might you go with wired or wireless, you might ask? Our wired products are primarily PIR, so out of sight, out of mind is the way that I like to call it. But not every room needs that, you know, like if you have a big office that you're working with, or if you're working in kind of like, basically the more complex the room, the less PIR is gonna be efficient. If you have a whole bunch of offices like right out here, PIR might not work just because you have not the whole zone that you need to be censored, able to be censored. Right? Wireless products are all dual tech. What that means is it has the PIR capabilities, but it also has ultrasonic technology embedded into it. So ultrasonic uses the change in waves to be able to tell when a light needs to stay on or stay off. Dual tech combines them both together basically to maximize the amount of correct times that the light should be on or the light should be off. So, do we know kind of why there might be an issue with ultrasonic? If you're too close to like a fan system, so we always say to put it like 6 feet away from a fan. If you're too close to something, if there's a lot of noise, the ultrasonic part of it is going to detect it and then keep it on. So with dual tech, it'll be able to combine those to be like, okay, we might hear this, we don't necessarily see this, so we may not need to keep it on. Or for the dual tech as well, it requires just one of them to be able to turn on initially, so it can sense when maybe somebody's in a room just sitting typing at a desk, or if somebody's moving around, but if everything's been still for a while, then it knows to turn it off. So we're seeing that Chicago tends to kind of go a little bit more dual tech dominant, which is why I'm focusing a little bit more on the wireless DLM, is because I haven't seen a ton of applications personally where just PIR is needed. So we have our ceiling sensor that is dual tech. Now we have just one SKU for it. We try to keep things a little bit simpler for this. But we do offer here, we offer 3 different lens caps that you can put on for either narrower coverage. This is our standard coverage, or there's another cap that you can put on to get an extended range of coverage. So that way we can kind of cover all the solutions without creating 3 different SKUs on it. We also have 3 different options for mounting. So you can do just a standard mount, and all of these are like twist to lock basically for mounting. You can do your standard mount where it'll stick out a little bit like the sensor here is on a standard mount. If you want it more flush to the ceiling, you can choose to put in a recessed mount. Or if you're in an area that maybe is a little bit like higher in ceiling coverage, or you're kind of connecting it onto maybe not a direct ceiling itself, it's something that needs to come out a little bit. We also do have a little like rat tail that you can go and extend it to from there. So as high or low as you need things to be mounted, we have options for that. In addition to our ceiling sensor, we have our daylighting sensor. The important part for mounting this is just to keep it facing the window so we can actually do the daylighting correctly. Again, same 3 different mounting options, also same 3 different lenses for coverage. We also, this one might actually just be standard. Our corner mount also has 3 different ranges for coverage. And so I actually just saw these, I flew out last weekend for a vacation, and I saw these in Terminal 5 for O'Hare, the new part of the pool. But we have our corner mounts, which we also see people kind of putting in regular areas just to be able to use this as kind of a wall mount sensor. So we do offer the extended range in case people want to use it a little bit more as a wall mount sensor for it. In addition to that, a room needs three things. You need a power, you need a sensor. You might actually want to switch to turn it on and off. Or, you can just mess with people and just be like, let the sensors do the job. If you want to do it on your own, that sucks. No, we actually do want to switch. So we have our legacy switches. We have two different options for legacy switches, which are just a one button on off and dimming, or you have 5 buttons where you can create different scenes for it. So we noticed with these sensors, with these switches here, a lot of people tend to go for the scenes just because it's definitely a little bit more versatility, more options in what you can do. But we also have just a single button there if you just want a little bit more simpler, don't need so many scenes, just need it on off or to be able to dim to different levels. I also want to mention as a quick side note that you can create scenes on the app, so that way if you're using the app in a standalone, people can adjust that at any time, so that way if somebody has something here where they're like, I want to change this scene from turning half the lights on and off to just dimming half the lights, they can have that option to create a new scene and assign it to a button. And so our buttons do come for the scenes with available custom engraving. We just basically create the engravements, we'll send the plate out to you, you can take the old one right off and then just toss it. And all these systems here that have the batteries in them, the batteries we say have between 5 to 7 lifespan, just depends on how often they're used. We see on average 7, but we're giving that range just to kind of keep ourselves safe. And so most of these just have standard batteries in them, so these are like basically your standard with BMCs. Looks like it's a 1, 2, 3. You can get these pretty much at the store. You don't have to go to Batteries Plus or anything to be able to get a new battery for them. So when it comes out and it's done, you just change the battery out. Although maybe by the time the battery runs out, they may want a new setup. Or there's new code that goes into effect or any time, just depends on the situation.
Do you have to reset the settings after the battery?
Yes. It will reset.
How's the competition? Is that the same or?
I haven't run any run out yet.
It's just gonna be a pain in the ass.
Right, it's gonna be,
Yeah,
it's
so
drive
future
people
problem.
nuts.
Phone calls.
Phone calls and pissed off.
Yeah. I will double check on that just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it does reset if you keep the battery out.
Resets by itself, or you have to reset?
I will double check that.
It wipes the memory. Probably wipes the memory.
I would assume it's, yeah, I don't know. It might either wipe the memory or it can save it into the system itself to be able to actually keep it together, but I'm gonna double check that, because I actually don't, I'm not 100% confident in that answer. And so kind of with this system here, we know that each of these sensors to the room controller, there's about a 60-foot range coverage to be able to have it from the controller to all of the nodes. If you're trying to expand it out further, or if you're just working in a bigger area that needs to have a lot of connections, we do have a wireless border router that helps extend that range out a bit. It just goes straight into the ceiling tile so you don't even see it. We also recommend this just to be able to have kind of that even better range for the networking capabilities. So most of these things get set up on a software that we have, and that software can kind of help manage, it can help show you some different statistics that are going on with energy usage. That is actually on our future plan, is to be able to get even more parameters to be measured by our wireless system, because we're noticing that everything's shifting over towards data. Everybody wants to know every little bit of everything and get controlled by little microchips, so that way if we have another pandemic, we're all screwed again. And another change that we've noticed that was an issue for some people is they didn't necessarily want to have these switches into snap boxes. So one of the products that we are soft launching right now for specification is our slip switch. We do plan on making this a both wireless version. Right now we have, as well as a wired version. But this is our version where you have the adhesive to be able to stick to different areas. It sticks at about 0.43 inches if you're going to put it like right against the glass, 0.18 if you put it in the box. We have an optional neutral, you don't have to wire the switch, but we just have it there in case you're putting it in that box in order to keep up with the Plenum rating. And with this, we're also creating more options for the switches, so I noted before with our legacy switches, we had a 1 and 5 button option. Here we have a standard 1 button option, which I don't have a sample of at this point, or 1 button with a dimmer. Same of the dimmer and the 4 buttons, that's similar to this one right here. And one other cool one that we have actually is 2 on-offs and 2 dimmings. This can control 2 different lighting loads. So that is all part of the DLM wireless. It can just fit along right with everything else that there is. So if you have existing projects where they might need a couple of switches, it may be easier to go with the slim switch than to go with the wireless switch. Now we note that one issue that people may talk about a little bit is price. We do know that with code, I get the comment a lot, it seems like it's just a price gouging opportunity. Yeah, I see there's some nice nods there. But we do want to note that while it may be a little bit more expensive upfront, because of the ease of installation, because of the ease of use, this is one of those items that will save money over time. I know it's not easy to see. I know a lot of people are kind of thinking in the now today, what did I need 5 minutes ago that I still don't have that I'm waiting for? But we note that with Legrand systems, it's a little bit of the long game that we're playing here in a short game market. And so coming up kind of in the future for a little bit of roadmap, we are focusing more on kind of expanding our slim switch capabilities. We are starting to focus more onto getting more metrics measured within our LMCS software system. And we are trying to focus on starting to get some more controls. What we notice a bit that people are starting to go towards a bit is occupancy, kind of with the whole back to office. People are trying to figure out how do we make sure people are coming into office, how do we want to get them into office and things, how can we actually enforce this? We're starting to develop some technology that will come out and be able to actually have one of those metrics measured of like how many bodies are actually in the room. And so, like I mentioned before, we have code guidelines that are up on our website, a quick guide to just the codes, what are the different changes, it's a quick one-pager. We also have some guides on there for DLM room designing, so if you're like, great, I see this, we have new code, I have a small office, or I have a big office, or I have restrooms that I'm trying to figure out what the heck products do I put in there. We have a nice, I think it's 24 pages total of all the different solutions that can work for DLM wired and DLM wireless. And if you don't have the time to read it because you're out there making sales, I know a lot of the times I'm looking at things and I'm like, I don't have the time to research this. We have Quick Desk and Chicago Lightworks that can help. We have a great lighting team that is able to kind of work on those startups from start to finish, anything from getting your takeoffs all the way to getting field techs out there. And am I missing anything else?
Don't go to Quick Test for controls, go to controls for controls,
Yeah.
because she'll just route you to controls, so, yeah.
So we have a great controls team that is up to date on everything going on, figuring out all the solutions right now, even more than what we have on our website. And then we have your Susie as your one-stop shop for everything that we need. She can get you to the right people as well.
Can you let them know, Shane, what they have available here as far as sample bags as well?
Yeah,
Say
so-
you guys do have some stuff here.
Yeah, so right now for wireless, we're not quite in the spot where wireless stocking yet, but we're working right now with the team on getting some items together. Let me grab right now from what you do have. Try and signal it last round here. There we go. So I mean, what you guys do have, we have a lot of power packs that are on hand for the 150s and the 50s. What BZ50, BZ150, a lot of auto on, auto off, or just like manual on or manual off. With the plug load, we do have some analog controllers, the 200 series that will fit code for that. That'll make it really easy because you just do our plug load controller, and then you can do the regular sensors and it'll still work the same. We also have a bit of occupancy sensors that you guys can use, lots of dual tech occupancy sensors for the ceiling for analog. You have, let's see here, you have a couple of DLF wired sensors and room controllers in stock, but no wireless at this point, and a few ultrasonic sensors as well. So what I would note right now for projects that we have in stock, there would be, a good solution would be like for a room, a BZ150, which is your power pack, with either a DT300 if you need it to connect to a separate system, like an HVAC system or something, or DT305 if you just need a standard ceiling sensor. And then whichever switch you would like to use kind of from our radiant collection.
How are your lead times looking for product not currently in stock?
For product not currently in stock, I'm seeing an average of 6 weeks. The range is 4 to 8. But what I do know is that our DLF wireless, we got basically eliminated our back orders, actually about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we do have items in stock.
A couple of your competitors are in a world of hurt, so that's why I asked. We worked with Justin on a project on a specified non-Wattstopper that we got Wattstopper worked in, so.
Yeah.
Running an opportunity, it's all about if you have it available, here's your PO.
Pretty much. I know our analog products are in stock. If there's a SKU that isn't in stock, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks is generally what I'm seeing. 8 is a very rare number that I'm seeing, but I just put it in there because I have seen it. And then our DLF wireless is definitely in stock. Our DLF wired, for the most part, is in stock.
Cool. Any questions, thoughts, group? Shay, nice job. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.